Welcome back to Pennsylvania Outdoor Life here in the cabin. And again, we got to say thank you to all the guys out there at National Archery and Outdoors, and especially Dave Strayer. We hope that the two winners pick up their bows, use them out there, and send us photos of successful harvests. You know, deer season pretty much right around the corner, just less than 2 months away. We're in our third round of antlerless tags. I went on and checked most of our viewing area. Gone, right? But there's one thing you may see if you spend a lot of time driving around in the great outdoors. You may see a Sandhill crane. There are more and more of them visiting the state of Pennsylvania. There's a survey that's done in October, and Molly Giles, the waterfowl biologist for the Pennsylvania Game Commission, took us on the survey last year.
We are looking at Sandhill cranes, which is a unique bird for northeastern Pennsylvania, or for Pennsylvania in general. A lot of people just kind of confuse them with great blue herons, but they're different, whole different family of birds. One of the main things you can use to distinguish between a great blue heron and a sandhill crane is that most herons, their neck is sinuous. They fold it into an S.
Yeah.
S shape, or they hold it in an S shape, even when they're flying in some cases. But sandhill cranes, their necks are straight, and when they fly, their necks are straight out. They don't fold them up at all.
Now, are these young of the year? Are they adults? Tell me about that.
So these three are adults, and that's because they have that red on their faces.
Okay.
The juveniles wouldn't have that red on them yet. Their head would just look gray, and a lot of times the juveniles would have sort of like a brownish or like a rusty colored wash to them too. They wouldn't be as bright gray as these ones.
So I lived here my whole life. I've been in every county in the state. I've never seen them before. And I call you and like you say, yeah, they're showing up around here.
They are, yeah. So they're not historically, they were not really associated with Pennsylvania. Back in the 80s, we started to have people reporting them, mainly up in the northwest part of the state, like Crawford and I think Lawrence County. That's where we started having reports of them initially. And then in, I think about 1993, they had the first confirmed nesting attempt of them. That was, again, up in the northwest part of the state. But since the 80s and early 90s, we've had them sort of spreading out across the state and showing up in higher numbers. Now, not all of those are breeding here. A lot of them are just staging here for migration. But in the central part of the flyway, that's where the biggest population is. And that population is, I believe, around 600,000 birds. And they all, or the majority of them, stage for like spring migration. So they've gone south for the winter. Right. Now they're going back north. Right. But obviously they can't, it's going to take a while for Canada to thaw out. So, and those northern breeding grounds. So they all have to stage or stop somewhere until the weather up north is better. So that pretty much that whole population stages in along the Platte River in Nebraska. And so when you have that many birds, plus millions of geese and ducks and other shorebirds and marsh birds and stuff like that, all migrating through that same area, it's like quite a thing to see for a person who enjoys birding and stuff like that. Sure. You can actually go to there's a place there where you can actually they have little blinds built, and you can sign up to go on like a crane viewing thing. So you can sign up for like a blind and go sit in that blind either in the morning or the evening when the birds are leaving the roost or coming into the roost. And it's quite a spectacle.
Those birds stage there. These birds are here. Where do you expect them to go when winter really sets in here in Pennsylvania?
So most of these eastern population birds are going to go somewhere, like I talked about, Florida, okay, Georgia, down, southern east coast, or we do have those birds now kind of hanging out in areas of, Kentucky and Tennessee and stuff like that. So it's going to depend kind of on the winter they experience, I guess, how far south they go, and that with climate change, that may be the reason why we're seeing them wintering in different areas. We're seeing all kinds of birds doing that with climate change. So, but the majority of the birds from that eastern population are going to go somewhere in like the southeastern U.S.
They live really long, right? They could be 20, 30 years old.
The record is 37 years for a sandhill crane.
So these birds could come back and forth to the same spot next year?
Correct. It's the pair that people have been seeing in this area, as well as some pairs in other counties in the area, could likely be the same pair every year. Pennsylvania, because we had started having more sightings of them, Fish and Wildlife Service added us into their annual survey. So it's a fall survey, happens at the end of October or early November every year. And the point of the survey is for us to come out here to sites where we've seen them before, or maybe where somebody has reported them to us like throughout the year. So we can go to those sites and use that information to get a count of what the numbers might be, and also like what that distribution is in the state. So, where are they spreading out to from those original sightings in the northwest part of the state. So we have, mainly we see them now in the northwest still, here in the northeast, and in the southeast as well. So like I think Lancaster County is one of the popular ones. But every year we kind of see them in more and more counties. In 2019, we had our first count for the fall survey that went over 200 birds.
Wow.
So we're above 200 birds now that are reported in the state every year. And I believe last year we set the record for number of counties surveyed in the state. So that was pretty cool. And there's a large number of counties that we survey in northeastern Pennsylvania. We do Bradford, Sullivan, like Columbia, Montour, Northumberland, Lackawanna, Pike, and Wayne.
Wow.
I think. So
much of my viewing area, actually.
Yep, it is. Yeah.
So by the time this airs, the survey is going to be over. But people want more information about the Sandhill crane and maybe the survey next year to help you out. Where can they find that?
So it's all on our website. If you just go on our website and in the search bar type in Sandhill crane, it should come up. Because this is actually a public survey. The biologists like myself and the game wardens come out to these spots where we have known locations, known sightings from year to year. We survey those. But during that survey period, which this year was October 24th up until November 2nd, any member of the public can submit data to Fish and Wildlife Service during that survey. So all of that information is on our website. There's a page on there that will show you how to positively identify cranes versus some other herons and things like that, and how to identify the adults versus the juvenile birds. So it'll walk you through that whole process. So if you have ones that you're maybe seeing on your property or close by and you want to kind of add those into the survey, you can go on the website and do it.
So if you see that big, majestic bird out there, don't be afraid to contact the Game Commission or take part in that survey later on in October. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.